Imagine you're a high-level money launderer for a global drug cartel. You have a problem. You have $3 billion in dirty cash and nowhere to put it. Most banks are like fortresses. They have AI-driven radars that flag a single suspicious deposit of $10,000. But you found a ghost in the machine. You found a bank that, for reasons no one can quite explain, has decided to turn its radar completely off. This isn't a conspiracy theory. It's a matter of federal record. Between 2014 and 2023, the Toronto Dominion Bank,
TD Bank with a historic $3 billion fine.
$3 billion.
Bad week for TD Bank, Canada's second largest bank.
America's most convenient bank.
Banks pleaded guilty today in a major money laundering case in the U.S. tied to drug traffickers and agreed to pay a multi-billion-dollar record fine.
the 10th largest bank in North America, maintained a significant blind spot. Internal reports now reveal that TD failed to monitor over 92% of its total transaction volume. We aren't talking about a few missed forms. We are talking about $18 trillion flowing through the system.
TD Bank created an environment that allowed financial crime to flourish,
with zero human eyes on the ledger. Let's look at how this works on the ground. Enter David. David Z was the leader of a sprawling money laundering network. His operation was simple, crude, and somehow incredibly effective. Between 2019 and 2021, David and his associates walked into TD Bank branches in New York and New Jersey hundreds of times. They didn't have armored trucks. They had duffel bags filled with cash. In a single Midtown Manhattan branch, David laundered over $474 million. How did he get away with it? He didn't need a sophisticated hacking tool. He just needed retail gift cards. David allegedly bribed an assistant store manager, Wilfredo Aquino, with roughly $11,000 in gift cards and cash. Think about the math of that corruption. For the price of a used Honda Civic, a bank employee ignored nearly $500 million in illicit cash. But the corruption went deeper. David wasn't just walking into one branch. He was using a layered approach, hitting multiple branches in a single afternoon. He knew exactly which managers were friendly and which ones were under pressure from corporate to meet high-volume deposit targets. To the bank's top brass, David wasn't a criminal. He was a high-value client. You might be wondering, how does a global institution with a 150-year history become the ATM of choice for cartels? The answer lies in a phrase used internally at TD: the flat cost paradigm. While other banks were pouring billions into advanced AI detection systems, TD executives were focused on a different metric: the bottom line. Internal memos show a mandate to keep the compliance budget flat year over year. Even as the bank grew, even as the risk profile skyrocketed, the budget for the guards at the gate was frozen. Then there was Project Green. This was the bank's internal effort to modernize its monitoring systems. But every time a new feature was proposed, like a system that could detect duffel bag-sized cash deposits, it was shelved. Why? Because the implementation would take too long or cost too much. The Justice Department's statement of facts is chilling. It describes a culture where customer experience was prioritized over criminal detection. High net worth customers were allowed to move millions without basic questions because asking those questions might make them uncomfortable.
another store manager implored his supervisors, several TD Bank regional managers, to act, noting that, quote, "It is getting out of hand and my tellers are at the point that they don't feel comfortable handling these transactions.
In one internal email that has since become infamous, a TD employee jokingly asked, "Why are the bad guys so attracted to us?" They weren't just attracted to TD. They were invited by a corporate culture that viewed compliance as a cost center to be minimized, rather than a defense to be fortified. But David Z wasn't the only one taking advantage of the green shadow. In New Jersey, another insider named Oscar Nunez Flores was running his own side hustle. Nunez accepted bribes to open dozens of shell company accounts, often without any customers actually being present. He issued over 600 debit cards to a money laundering network that was moving cash from the United States to Colombia. Over $26 million was extracted through Colombian ATMs using these cards. Nunez was essentially selling unfettered access to the 10th largest bank in America for a fee of just $500 per account. Think about the logistical nightmare this creates for law enforcement. One debit card is a needle in a haystack. 600 debit cards? That's a digital superhighway for drug money. Nunez didn't just break the rules. He sold the bank's infrastructure to the highest bidder. When the top levels of a bank signal that compliance doesn't matter, the lower levels start to realize that the bank's security is for sale. To put this in perspective, we have to look at the history of bank scandals.
There were allegations of 60% to 70% of laundered proceeds in Mexico.
We remember HSBC and the drug cartels in Mexico. We remember Wells Fargo and the fake accounts.
2 million fake accounts secretly created, 5,300 employees fired.
But the TD scandal is different because of the sheer scale of the negligence. $18 trillion. To put that in context, that is nearly 70% of the entire United States gross domestic product. It is an astronomical figure that suggests that TD wasn't just a victim of a few bad employees. They were the primary engine for global money laundering for nearly a decade. The fallout across the pond in Canada was just as severe. The Toronto Dominion Bank is a pillar of the Canadian economy. When the news broke, the stock plummeted, wiping out billions in shareholder value. Critics began to ask, if this was happening in the US branches, what is happening in the Canadian headquarters? The scandal has forced a total re-evaluation of how we regulate too-big-to-fail banks. Because if a bank can miss $18 trillion of suspicious activity, the system isn't just broken, it's non-existent. When the lights finally came on in October 2024, the fallout was historic.
It was a bad week for TD Bank. Agreed to pay a record $3 billion in fines.
A $3 billion fine, a 5-year probationary term. But the real death blow wasn't the cash. It was the asset cap. The US government told TD Bank they are no longer allowed to grow. In the banking world, if you can't grow, you're dying. TD is now forced to spend billions fixing the plumbing they neglected for a decade, while their competitors eat their market share. They are currently hiring thousands of compliance officers and installing the radars they should have built in 2014. But for the financially literate investor, the question remains, can you ever truly fix a culture that viewed $18 trillion of unmonitored cash as just the cost of doing business? Trust is the only real currency a bank has. And once that currency is devalued to zero, no amount of compliance software can bring it back. The green machine is still running, but the world is finally watching the ledger, and what they're seeing is a warning for every other institution on Wall Street.